In this session, I am going to explain you the power angle equation of the salient pole synchronous machine. Before going to do the actual derivation, let us see the difference between the non-salient versus salient pole synchronous machine. Non-salient pole synchronous machine. So the non-salient pole synchronous machine rotor construction looks like this. It is a cylindrical rotor. So the poles will be mounted on the rotor surface itself. This is shaft, rotor, and this is the stator. And if you observe the air gap between the rotor and the stator, all around the machine, the air gap will be uniform. Wherever you measure the air gap between the rotor and the stator, it is uniform. So that is why we will have only one reactance, that is with respect to the direct axis, or you can say the synchronous reactance of the machine. Coming to the salient pole synchronous machine, the rotor poles will be projected outside. So it is not mounted on the surface itself, and the structure will be no more uniform like cylindrical rotor, or you can say non-salient pole synchronous machine. Because of this kind of construction, the air gap between the rotor and the stator will be non-uniform. If you see here, air gap at this position is different, and if you keep moving, the air gap will be increasing. Along with this axis, we will get the maximum air gap. Now let us see some more details about the salient pole synchronous machine. Let us consider the two-pole salient pole synchronous machine. Now the axis along with the rotor axis will be called as a direct axis, and the axis perpendicular to the direct axis will be called as a quadrature axis. And the air gap along with the direct axis will be minimum, and the air gap along with the quadrature axis will be maximum. Because of the non-uniform air gap, there will be a non-uniform flux linkage around the rotor. So thereby, it will result into two different types of reactances. That is, one is direct axis reactance and another one is quadrature reactance. So therefore, while deriving the power angle equation, we need to consider the effects of both direct axis and the quadrature axis reactance. Now let us see the four-pole machine construction. As I told, the axis along with the rotor axis will be called as a direct axis, and the axis along with the interpolar region will be called as a quadrature axis. So thereby, whenever we are deriving the salient pole synchronous machine, we need to consider the effects with respect to the direct as well as the quadrature axis. Not only the reactances, this non-uniform air gap will result into two different voltages and the currents also. That I will explain you by using phasor diagram. Let us see that. To understand this derivation properly, first you need to understand the phasor diagram of the salient pole synchronous machine. If you are clear about the phasor diagram, then you can do the derivation conveniently. Let us see that. So we know that terminal voltage will be considered as a reference voltage. That means it is V at an angle 0 degrees. Now coming to the current, it is predominantly reactive in nature, so the current will be lagged behind by the voltage by some angle. What is that angle? That is nothing but the power factor angle phi. As I told, because of this non-uniform structure, the voltages and the currents also will be divided into two components. Let us represent. So V cos del and V sin del. Del is nothing but the angle between the induced EMF and the voltage. Similarly, the current also will be divided into two different components, that is with respect to the horizontal IQ and with respect to the vertical component ID. Now we know whenever we are using the alternators for the analysis, stability studies, we have taken one assumption that the X by R ratio of the synchronous generator will be very high. So because the armature resistance is very much less than the reactance value, thereby we are neglecting the resistance for the phasor diagram representation also. That means we are not considering the drops with respect to the armature resistance. We are taking the quantities only with respect to the reactance value. Now we have only two voltage drops to be considered with respect to the reactance value. We have two different reactances, that is XT and XQ values. Similarly, we have two different currents, ID and XT values. Then the respective drops you can represent it as that is ID into JXT drop, IQ into JXQ drop. Whichever current we are multiplying, perpendicular to that, this drop will go. That means IDXT drop will be perpendicular to the current ID. So this is IDXT drop. Coming to the IQXQ drop. IQXQ drop will be perpendicular to that IQ current. That means IQ into XQ drop. So now if you add terminal voltage plus the drop IDXT and the drop IQXQ, if you add, the resultant vector will be the excitation voltage E. So I hope up to this is clear. So we have taken the reference voltage V, then we have represented the voltage as V cos del and the V sin del. Similarly, the current we have represented with respect to the quadrature axis as IQ and the direct axis as ID. I hope up to this is clear. Now, the angle between the E and the V will be called as a load angle del. So with this actually the main phasor diagram over, but let us see some more factors. Sometimes they may ask you find out the internal voltage, internal EMF of the generator, or you can say with respect to the generator terminals. If you add the reactance drop with respect to the resultant current, reactance drop with respect to resultant current means perpendicular to this current, you will add to this voltage. So this is nothing but I into JXQ drop. Terminal voltage plus Ji into XQ drop will give us internal voltage with respect to the generator, that is E dash. What is this in between red color line? That means from this point to this point. So what is this drop? I have mentioned it as a ID into JXQ drop. How this has come, let us see. So now we have formed here one triangle. This quantity, whatever we have represented, this vertical quantity is parallel with this, parallel to this line. So that means this quantity and this quantity both are same. That is IQ into JXQ drop. And we know this I is nothing but vector summation of this IQ and the ID. One drop is IQXQ means definitely this drop will be ID into JXQ. Thereby we got this drop as a ID into JXQ drop. Fine. We need to represent the generated EMF E in terms of E dash. How can we do that? Let us see that. From this point to, let me take point O. From O point to E is the total internal or the generated EMF of the generator. Okay. Now, up to this point, from O to this point is E dash. Now, if you find what is the value of this portion, then if you add this E dash plus this value, then you can get the generated EMF E. Now let us see how to get this component. If you observe here, from here to here it is, this portion is ID into JXT, and if you, whatever from here to here, that means this if you extend till here, from this line to this line, this will be ID into JXQ. Now we need to find out this value. This total we know and this we know. If you subtract this quantity from this, you will get whatever we want from E dash to E area vector magnitude. So then we will get this vector magnitude. Therefore, the generated EMF E is equal to terminal voltage or the internal voltage E dash plus, if you see here, both the quantities are having ID value. This is ID into JXT, this is ID into JXQ. So I can take ID, if you take common, XT minus XQ. Therefore, E is equal to E dash plus J ID into XT minus XQ. Okay, this formula also we need to remember. That means if they give the terminal voltage of the generator, then if you know only the ID and the XT/XQ component, then directly you can find out the generated EMF. Or else the generated EMF E is equal to total voltage B. One more equation also you can get from this, that is voltage plus ID into JXT drop plus IQ into JXQ drop. So this is another formula for excitation EMF E. So I hope this much is clear about the phasor diagram. Now one more relation is, this value we know, this is the del, the phase angle between the voltage and current is power factor angle phi. From this, I want to get the relation between the ID and the I, the direct axis current and the resultant current. If this is del and this is phi, this total angle will be equal to del plus phi. From here to here, this will be equal to del plus phi. Now let me draw this portion from here to this and this, so that we won't be having any confusion. So this is IQ and this is I. So here we have del plus phi angle. Now if this full quantity is ID, from this O point to here will be the ID quantity up to this point. That means parallel to this line is parallel to this line. So that will be equal to ID. From this triangle we can write sin del plus phi is equal to ID by I. Therefore, the direct axis current ID is equal to I into sin del plus phi. This is another important equation that we need to remember, that is direct axis current is equal to equivalent current into sin del plus phi. So this sin del plus phi, whenever the power factor is lagging power factor, you will get the plus sign for lagging power factors. If it is a leading power factor, then we will get del minus phi. That we need to remember, it is plus or minus phi depending upon which type of power factor that we are using. It is nothing but the armature current IA into sin del plus phi. Now let us see the derivation for power angle equation. We know the real power can be calculated from the voltage and the current which are represented in phase. Because of the non-uniform air gap, here we have two different components for the voltages as well as the current. So therefore, the power can be represented as summation of the product of V cos del IQ and V sin del ID. P is equal to mod V cos del into IQ plus mod V sin del into, let us consider this as a equation number 1. When you perform any experiment, generally we will be measuring the power value, voltage and the current value. So we won't measure the current with respect to the direct axis and current with respect to the quadrature axis. These two quantities will be unknown for us. So therefore, I don't want to represent my power angle equation with respect to the quadrature axis current and the direct axis current. So we need to replace these two currents by the known quantities. So what are the known quantities here? So you can say the terminal voltage V and the excitation EMF also will be given. XT we know and the XQ value we load angles, how much the del value and the power factor values. So this much generally we'll be knowing. We won't be knowing the value of IQ and the ID. How to convert these values means we should observe the relation between these quantities with respect to the other quantities. So from where we will get that relation means from phasor diagram we can get the relations. Let us go back to the phasor diagram. Now if you observe the phasor diagram, the IDXT drop is nothing but from 0 to E, the magnitude is, and this quantity is V constant. And the remaining portion, rest of the portion is nothing but from here to here, this is IDXT. It is very clear. The IDXT is equal to E minus V constant. So therefore, ID into JXT drop is equal to E minus V constant. Similarly, the IQXQ drop, if you look at the IQXQ drop, this quantity and up to here, this quantity, both are same. So IQXQ is equal to V sin del. That's it. IQ into JXQ drop is equal to V sin del. So from these two equations, you can get the values of ID and the IQ values. Now let us write the equation for both the currents. From the phasor diagram, we got the ID into JXT drop is equal to E minus V cos del and IQ into XQ value is equal to V sin del. So I am interested only with respect to the magnitudes. So I can write mod ID as mod E minus mod V cos del divided by XD and the IQ value as mod V sin del divided by XQ. So let me consider this as equation number 2 and this as equation number 3. So by substituting these two values in equation number 1, then we can get the equation for power angle. Mod V cos del into IQ value is mod V sin del divided by XQ value plus mod V sin del into the ID value is mod E minus mod V cos del divided by XD value. So by simplifying this equation, we will get mod V square sin del cos del divided by XQ plus mod E mod V sin del divided by XD and minus mod V square sin del cos del divided by XD. If you observe these two terms, we have mod V square sin del cos del and mod V square sin del cos del common. So this equation can be written as mod E mod V by XD into sin del plus mod V square sin del cos del. If you take common, we will have 1 by XQ minus 1 by XD. This can be further simplified as mod E mod V divided by XD into sin del plus mod V square. If you see this sin del cos del value, we know sin 2 del as 2 sin del cos del. So we know sin 2 theta is equal to 2 sin theta cos theta. So in similar way we can write sin 2 del is equal to 2 sin del cos del. So we want only the sin del cos del value. So let us send this to this side. So this can be written as sin 2 del by 2. Sin 2 del by 2. And if you take LCM, we have XD, XQ, XD minus XQ. That's it. So this is the power angle equation of salient pole synchronous machine is mod E mod V divided by XD into sin del plus mod V square into XD minus XQ divided by 2XD XQ into sin 2 del. So this is the complete power angle equation of salient pole synchronous machine. So if you look at this, there are two terms in this power equation. First equation is nothing but the power angle equation of the non-salient pole synchronous machine. Yes or no? So that is mod E mod B divided by xt into sin del. This is called electromagnetic power. So which is represented by PE. This term causes the major part of the power transfer. Coming to the second term, this is reluctance power. This reluctance power is quite small, that is 10 to 20% as compared to the electromagnetic power. So now let us see the power angle curve of the salient pole synchronous machine. We have seen already what will be the shape of the curve for this term, and we have to see how this reluctance power looks like and what is the resultant power of these two terms. That is nothing but P. And what is the condition to get the P max? So what is the P max? That is steady state stability limit. So for non-salient pole synchronous machine, we have seen whenever the del value is equal to 90 degrees, this sine term will be maximum, then the P max will arrive at del is equal to 90 degrees. Because of this reluctance power, now it may not be at 90 degrees. Now let us see what is that angle, how to find out. So let us see the power angle diagram. As the name refers, it is the plot between the power and the angle. So on x-axis we will be taking the load angle del and the y-axis real power in megawatts. Electromagnetic power, already we know the curve. So this is the electromagnetic power. We will get the maximum power at del is equal to 90 degrees. So this much we know already. Now coming to the reluctance power. So the reluctance power looks like this. And what is the resultant? The resultant of the electromagnetic power and the reluctance power will give us the power angle curve for the salient pole synchronous machine. The resultant power angle curve looks like this. So at which angle the maximum power will occur means it is approximately 73 to 74 degrees. That means approximately in the 70 degrees region we will be getting the maximum power for this, and this curve is nothing but the resultant power. Now what is the steady state stability limit? So we could able to tell for the electromagnetic power exactly at 90 degrees, but here it is not the case. Approximately I am telling 70 degrees, like that you cannot tell. You should tell exactly the P max is going to occur at del is equal to 73 degrees or at del is equal to 74 degrees. You cannot say in between somewhere the power maximum will occur. So how to find exactly at which angle that we are going to attain the P maximum? So if you observe these curves, whether you take the electromagnetic power or the reluctance power or the resultant power. So here you can say for this curve, this is the P max, this is the P max for this reluctance power. What is this point? What is the relation between the power and the load angle at this point means? So up to here if you see, as del increases, the power also will increase and reach to at one point. So after that, as del increases, the power decreases. What is the relation between these two quantities at this point? Means the change in the power with respect to the change in the load angle will be equal to 0. So this is the basic condition to get the steady state stability limit. So whether it is a non-salient pole or whether it is a salient pole condition, whenever they are pointing out with the steady state stability limit, so the condition is the change in the power with respect to the change in the load angle will be equal to 0. You just do the differentiation of the power with respect to the del and equate that equation to the 0. So you will be finding the value for del. So if you substitute that del value into again the power equation, you will get both the P max and the del value. So now what is the steady state limit? So you know the power equation. If you differentiate this power equation with respect to the del and that equation if you equate to 0, so we will be getting the del value. That del value is nothing but del max. At this del max value, again if you substitute back the del max value in this condition, so whatever the power that we are going to get will be the maximum. So I hope everything is clear. The basic concepts and the phasor diagram and the equation derivation and finally the power angle curve. So the complete derivation looks to be a little lengthy, but if you know the phasor diagram, if you understand that phasor diagram relation, it will be a bit easy. So along with this, I want to tell you one more relation. So from this same phasor diagram, I want to get the relation between the direct axis current and the armature current. We know the angle between the EMF and the terminal voltage is del, and the angle between the voltage and the current is nothing but power factor angle phi. So now what is the total angle from here to here? It is del plus phi. Okay. Now this quantity is IQ, and what is this quantity? This perpendicular line is nothing but ID, current ID. Okay, this is ID current. So now if you take this portion alone, that means we have IQ here and this is I, this is IA and this is current ID, and the angle is del plus phi. So if you find out the sine del plus phi, that is equal to ID by IA. So therefore, the direct axis current ID is equal to I into or IA into sine del plus phi. So this is one more equation that we need to remember. The direct axis current is equal to I into sine del plus phi or IA into sine del plus phi. So this del plus phi, it is plus or minus phi actually. Okay, what is that? If it is a lagging power factor, you will get the plus value. If it is a leading power factor, you will get the negative value. Thank you.